So, the backside, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I don't recommend you to be a copy machine. Don't just copy this down. Maybe you just want to relax and watch this video right here that I'm explaining, and then at home try to do it on your own. Pull up this video to see if you're getting the right answers, right? Again, typos, I apologize. For future classes, I've already fixed it. But on this one, when I was changing my practice test, thinking of different equations, I ended up not changing certain ones. So the instructions say, please graph the following on the answer column to the left. So this is the equation that we're going to be dealing with on 13. We might as well go down to 17 is actually correct. It's right there. But 18 is incorrect. So let's scratch out 18 as well. 18, we're just going to be going off of this one that I have provided for you on the answer column. Okay? So let's go for this backside. On this backside, we have another parabola that we need to graph. And here's our original pattern when A equals 1, 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9. However, our A value is not 1, it's 2, which means that we need to take these outputs and multiply them by our new A value. I need to take the output and multiply it by my new A value. Okay, so each one of these I am going to multiply by 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So instead of the pattern being 1, 1, it's going to be 1, 2. Instead of 2, 4, it's going to be 2, 8. Instead of 3, 9, it's going to be 3, 18, which we're not going to use on this small XY coordinate plane. Anyway, maybe I shouldn't have even began with that. I should have began with my most important point, the vertex. What is the vertex, ladies and gentlemen? Think opposite on H, that gives you a -1, and take K for what it is, it's -5. Let's all plot -1, -5, which is down here right on the edge. What's the very next thing I should do right after drawing my vertex? Axis of symmetry. Yeah, that's right, axis of symmetry. Okay, so let's all draw that dotted green line, axis of symmetry. I will ask you what the axis of symmetry is. What is this axis of symmetry? And you can't just say -1. You have to say x equals -1, right? Okay, and that will be a point on the test. So the axis of symmetry is x equals -1. So again, I want to reinforce this. I need to see x equals, because x equals a number. The equation x equals a number. That's the only way you're going to get a vertical line, right? Y equals a number would give you a flat line. X equals a number, vertical line. So I need to see the x equals in front of the x value of your vertex. So the axis of symmetry is always going to be x equals the x value, this guy, the x value of your vertex. Anyways, we need some more points. Let's use our modified pattern of 1, 2, 2, 8, 3, 18. So from the vertex, go 1 over, 2 up. Now let's put a dot right there. Then go back to the vertex and go 2 over, 8 up. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You'll be right there at the coordinate 1, 3. And if you did go back and try 3, 18, you're going to be way off this graph, so I'm not even going to worry about it. Let's just map these coordinates, these red coordinates, over to the other side of the axis of symmetry, giving you a point right there and a point right there. Let's now graph or draw a line through that parabola. Let's graph our parabola. And we're done. Now, let's move on to question 14, 15, and 16. 14 says, state the axis of symmetry equation of number 13. Okay, we already did that. That green dot ended up being, or that green dotted line ended up being x equals -1. And that's the answer for number 14. Okay, what else? Number 15, state the domain. Dang, that's like a free point for everybody. What's the domain? Okay, and I did hear somebody just say all real numbers. You have to put x equals all real numbers. If you put all real numbers, I could give half credit, but you need to have x equals all real numbers for full credit on 15. Now the range are your y values, which either go up or down. It's definitely not all real numbers for y, because it doesn't go up and down forever. The lowest point, the minimum value, is right here at -5, right? So this graph is at -5 and above -5. So how do we say that in terms of an inequality? Y is greater than or equal to -5, right? And again, it's y is greater than or equal to -5 which is the y value of your vertex. Okay. So we have a couple more to do, number 17, 18, and again, don't go off of these. I messed up. Let's go off of the ones right here on the graph itself. This is really easy to do. It's y equals mx plus b. It's already ready to graph. Where does it cross the y-axis? 5. What do I do from there? Down 3 over 1. So you always run to the right. The positive or the negative just tells you if you go up or down. So down 3 over 1, put a dot there. Let's continue to go down 3 over 1, down 3 over 1. That way you get the line from one side of the graph to the other side of the graph. All right, now the question is, do I draw a solid line right through it or a dotted line right through it? Dotted. Dotted. All right, so let's put some dots between the dots. So why is it dotted?
Because there's no line underneath.
There's no solid line underneath the inequality. Maybe on tomorrow's test, the only difference is that there is a solid line, right? Or not, who knows? But in addition to graphing, we also need to shade in where our answers are at. So you either shade in this side of that red dotted line or this side of that red dotted line. All the answers stick together, right? So let's test a point. What's the easiest point to test? 0, 0. So there's 0, 0. I want to plug in 0 for x, 0 for y, and it'll say 0 is less than negative 3 times 0 plus 5. So that's really going to say this cancels out. 0 is less than 5. Is 0 less than 5? Heck yeah. So this point right here, 0, 0, it did work. It's a yes. It's an answer. That means that all the answers are going to be on that side of the dotted line. So we're going to shade in that side of the dotted line. So yeah, the shortcut works. If you're thinking, oh, less than's below. If it were a greater than, it'd be above. Yeah. And even if it were a vertical line, if it said x is greater than 5, if it were a vertical line, let's say at 5, and it said greater than, you would shade in the right side, not the left side, right? Because you're talking about x's, not y's. But if y is by itself, yeah, you could use a shortcut. Your y's, you're going to be showing the less than part of it, which is below the line itself down here. Okay, number 18. So what do we need to know for number 18? Again, we need to know the form of an absolute value function. So on number 18, you need to know this form, y equals a, absolute value x minus h plus k on the outside of the absolute value. And of course, the a value, it's kind of like our slope. That's why I put it in blue. The h and k is the most important point. It's kind of like our vertex, right? So let's go to the most important point, the hk coordinate. So what is our h value inside parentheses, or in this case, inside the absolute values that's being subtracted from x? 0. So that's a 0 right there. Everybody put a 0. And the k value is the value that's added or subtracted at the very end, which happens to be a positive 1. Okay, so let's go to 0, positive 1 right there. If you want, you could do your axis of symmetry just to continue that practice of doing parabolas. Now we do need coordinates, and we're not going to use the pattern of 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9 because this is not a U-shaped curve. This is like a V, right? So let's go with the slope of a, and in this case the slope is negative 1 over 1. So I'm going to be going down 1 over 1 and put a dot right there, and down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, all the way till you get to the edge. Now you could map them over to the other side of that axis of symmetry, kind of like what we do with parabolas. Or you could have used that same pattern of down 1 over 1, but in the other direction. Anyway, is this going to be a solid V or a dotted V? Dotted. Okay, so let's put dots between the dots. Dot here, dot there, dot there, dot there, dot there. And of course, the answers are either going to be on one side or the other side. Now, it's not a straight line, it's a V, right? So it's either going to be on the inside of the V or on the outside of the V. That's where you're going to shade in. And you could pick any point you want. If you happen to test the point 0, 0, that's clearly, this yellow dot right here is clearly on the inside of the V. So if it works, I'm going to shade in the inside of the V. If it doesn't work, I'm going to shade in the outside of the V. So plug in 0 for x, 0 for y, and what will it say? It'll say 0 is greater than, the absolute value of 0 is 0. With the negative in front, it's still 0. And then 0 plus 1 is 1. It's going to say 0 is greater than 1. Is that true or false? 0 is greater than 1. False. So this little yellow dot did not work. This is not an answer. Where are my answers at? On the outside. So let's shade in the outside. And that's it. Only 2 more questions to go. And this could definitely be overwhelming, right? Look at all that. Look at all that reading. I don't know how to read. Let's understand transformations. I cut and paste straight from the notes right here. Okay? To describe transformations, you got to look at your A value first. And your A value tells you 2 different things, right? If the A value is negative, then it gets reflected over the x-axis. In addition to that, if the A value is closer to 0, it gets wider, which means vertically compressed. If your A value is further away from 0, then it gets vertically stretched. Okay? So let's understand how that A value tells us these first 2 things, and that's what we need to describe. Now the last one's easy. It's just the H and K shifts. So if we look at this one right here, let's ignore this for a while. What's the first thing that I should state? It gets reflected. So it could be A, it can't be B because it doesn't start with the reflection. Okay, so let's go through, start eliminating these guys. It can't be C because it starts out with vertically stretched instead of a reflection. It could be D, it might be E. So we're down to either A or D just by the first thing that you state, does it get reflected, right? Okay, so let's go with A. A, it gets reflected over the x-axis. Now this 3, is it going to stretch it or compress it? Is it going to make it narrower or wider? Stretch, right? So second thing, vertically stretched. Hey, so far it looks like we have a winner right here. And it says by a factor of 3, and yeah, that is a factor of 3. The negative we already dealt with because it was a reflection over the x-axis. We're down to our final transformation. Does this get shifted 4 units to the left?
No.
Yes.
Yes, because you think opposite. Yeah, you change it. So this is the answer, right? 6 units that what? Uh-oh.
Down. It's up.
So this messed us up right here. This messed us up right here. So it's not A. It is not A. What messed us up? This guy right here. If that would have set up, that would have been our answer.
None of them are correct.
Yeah, none of them are correct. That's right. None of them are correct. Because if you try to read this guy over here, reflected over the x-axis, so far so good. Vertically stretched by a factor of 3. Yeah, I got vertically stretched by a factor of 3. Shifted 4 units to the right. That should be to the left. Yeah. So D doesn't work either. I purposely put all of these not to work. I wanted you on the practice test to go through each one of these and like really think about them, right? Yeah, exactly. So it should have said down 6. So anyway, I did the same thing with this one. All of them are wrong except, they're all wrong, so none of these are correct, right? So how about this? Let's explain it in our own words right here as we conclude this backside. Does it get reflected over the x-axis?
No.
No, okay. Does it get vertically stretched or compressed?
Compressed.
Compressed. So the first thing you're going to say is a vertical compress by 1/2. That's the first thing that you're supposed to state. And the second thing, second and final, are your shifts. Where does it shift to? 3 to the left and 4 up. So this is it right here. I abbreviated it, right? And if you try to find those descriptions, it's not there, right? It should start with a vertical compression, and right here A says vertical stretch. Okay, you can't start with that. Again, vertical compression. This one starts with a reflection. There's no negative sign, so it can't be B. C starts with a vertical compression. That's great, and it is by a factor of 1/2. That's great. Then we move on to our shifts. It should be shifts 3 units to the, it says right here, but it's supposed to be left because I need to think opposite. So C can't be it. And last but not least, it does get reflected. No, it does not get reflected over the x-axis, so it can't be D either. So it's none of these. Now on the test tomorrow, it probably will be one of these that actually works. Okay, I just put none of these so you could go through each and every one and think about each and every situation. And that's about it, guys. We have the entire test explained. It's a 100-point test. There's not that many 100-point tests, guys. Your job tonight is to do this It's not just about completing it. It's about identifying the ones that you struggle with. If you struggle with these guys with the transformations, go back, review these notes, practice these problems, do them again. If you're struggling with piecewise functions from the first half, focus in on that, study it, do it over and over and over till it gets easier.